Oh my gosh, that was an incredible episode with Travis Hill. He went into some things I feel like we haven't gotten into before, like syndication, and the assisted living type stuff. I'm really excited for people to listen to this episode. I think, like I said, he dives into some things that we've never touched on before and gives some really great information as to, why he's doing things that a lot of other people aren't or can't do or think they can't do, and then ways that they can get involved with some of the stuff that he's doing.
Yeah, Travis is a great wealth of knowledge. I mean, if you want to talk about somebody who's been there, I mean, he's probably our first guest who was around in '08 and really felt the consequences of the Great Recession, and has since come back with a fury. What's he have, like 129 doors, whether they're syndicated or he owns them outright or partnered. He's just, he's took all the lessons from '08 and just has catapulted his position since.
Oh my gosh, that's so true. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I totally forgot to touch on that. Yeah, like he basically lost it all in 2008. And I think that's really cool that we've had somebody on that has that perspective of losing it all and still wanting to continue in real estate. And I also love like his take on the fact that he's doing so many different types of things within real estate, and diversifying kind of within real estate. You can diversify, I feel like, and I think that he's a good example of that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the whole assisted living aspect and looking at the macro economy, it's not just housing, it's looking at data and demographics and knowing that there's, I think he called it a silver tsunami coming of baby boomers who are going to, need to eventually move into, those assisted living places. I mean, that's a very smart move, in my opinion, without looking at any of the financials of it, just knowing like that age demographic and that's coming. I mean, those are the things that as investors, we need to always be mindful of on some level. So I think that's a super good tip from him.
Oh my gosh, I could not agree more. And then too, just his take on, I know we had, I think it was Mindy on episode number 2 of our podcast, where she talked a little bit about Dave Ramsey. And I
Mm-hmm.
love how Travis goes into a little bit of the Dave Ramsey aspect, and how, he was totally on board with Dave Ramsey. However, there's a couple things that he doesn't agree with him. And I think it's the same as what Mindy was talking about, how not all debt is bad debt. And I think that's something that Dave kind of preaches. And I kind of love how it seems like there's a theme now with the guests who do like Dave Ramsey, that they're kind of, they do want to live below their means, but they don't 100% believe that all debt is bad debt. Real estate debt could be an amazing thing, and it could be an amazing way to set you up for the future. And I do like too how Travis goes into his mastermind. I think that is incredible how most of his real estate investing has come from networking with his mastermind, networking on Instagram, just the relationships. And I think that he does a great job of kind of pointing that out in this episode, and how important it is to continue with the networking and the relationships. And that's kind of what is going to further you in real estate.
Yeah, I think that's a huge lesson for anybody, especially somebody looking to get started. If you have 0 deals or 1 deal, get to a meetup, go on Instagram, go and find people who are of like mind and start introducing yourself, start making those connections. And if you have been in this business for a while and you feel like that's one of your weakest things, it's now time to do that. If you want to get to that next level, you got to have the relationships and you got to maintain them as well. It's not so much about getting them and shaking hands initially. It's about keeping that up over the longevity of however long you want to do this.
Exactly. I completely agree. And then too, oh, I love how he dives into his goal of being able to completely live off his passive income when he is finally retired from, I don't know exactly how to put it. I mean, he does all kinds of deployments, and so I guess when he retires from, I don't know what that would be, but when he retires, he definitely wants to try and live off just his passive income. So I think that's a great goal. And then, like you were just saying, he does have 4 kids. So he kind of wants to be able to leave behind something for his children. So I think that that's a great point that he gets into as well. Yeah, and the silver tsunami. I'm excited for people to hear more about that. I feel like this was the first time we had anybody on that talked about assisted living, and then 2 syndications. I feel like that, he's definitely the first person that has ever talked about syndications on our podcast. So props to him.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's so much that Travis got into. I mean, he even has been a private lender himself, and he gave some of his criteria. I don't know, Kier. Maybe we should kind of leave people on their toes here and maybe bring Travis in before we give away too much.
Absolutely. Sounds good. All right. So we will bring Travis in now. All right. Welcome, Travis. We are so excited to have you on the Like-Minded Investors podcast. How are you?
Great. Thank you so much. Super stoked to be here.
Oh my gosh, I'm super stoked that you are here and we get to ask you all kinds of questions tonight. So obviously the first one we start off with everybody is kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, what it is you're currently doing with real estate investing, and kind of how you got to where you are today.
Okay, great. So right now I'm passively and actively invested in 129 doors, and we'll talk more about what that kind of means and the difference between those two. I currently am an equity partner in a land deal in Arizona, have single family homes in Wisconsin, and again, syndications, which we'll talk more about, in Texas, and also own a multifamily unit property in Ohio. So we're kind of all over the place, lots of stuff to talk about. This is kind of my round 2 of investing. I started 20 years ago when my fiance, now wife, was a loan officer. We were doing single family homes in Las Vegas. Had 6 properties there pre-recession, and the recession, like many of us, by 2011, I am early 30 with 3 kids and a bunch of foreclosed and short sold properties starting over. So took a little hiatus from 2011, let the wounds heal till 2018, and started in 2018. That's where we are now.
Oh my gosh, I completely forgot. Yeah, so Travis and I have known each other for, I think, at least over a year, maybe 2 years. I don't remember. I feel like you were in the very beginning of the Like-Minded Investors group where we didn't even open up to the public yet for that meetup. I completely forgot about that whole thing you went through back then with the foreclosures and how you're kind of almost starting over. I think that's a great topic to kind of dive into first.
Sure.
Yeah. So, I mean,
I'm glad you forgot.
I know it's probably hard for you to forget, but yeah, no, I think that's a great topic because a lot of people right now, I feel like, we hear a lot of people that are afraid to get into real estate because they think that there's this looming recession or something similar to 2008. So I would love if you would just dive into a little bit of that story about how you were on top of the world and then kind of lost it all, so to speak.
Absolutely. Yes. My fiance then, like I said, was doing loans as a loan officer, and she said, "Hey, you should probably get on this real estate thing." And just finished college, followed her after college to Las Vegas, and would find a phase 1 house, because everything's kind of built in phases when you do mass communities, right? And that's how they kind of build in Las Vegas. And so you buy the second biggest house on the phase 1, and I would house hack before house hacking was a term, rent out the other rooms, I lived for free, and then wait till phase, and then with every phase release, they would raise the price $5,000 to $10,000, $15,000. And again, this is early 2000. So phase 6, phase 7 comes along, I refinance, I move on to the next house, and I repeat that process over and over. Join the Marine Corps, everything is great, and then the recession hits in 2008, come back from deployment, my second deployment to Iraq, and now we're you figure that your year reserves is good, and then when that's gone in the year, and Vegas is still at 50%, year 1, year 2, I remember that we're pumping like $4,000 into these mortgages to try to make them work. And it just became to the point where we just could not survive the length that Vegas was hit on the Great Recession. So we didn't foreclose. We were able to short sell the properties and take that loss if necessary. And unfortunately, we were family, 3 kids starting over again. And luckily I was in the Marine Corps making little to no money, but at least it was a paycheck. And it was very tough. It was sobering to realize that I was 25. I'm like, man, I've got $1 million+ worth of assets. This is going to be great. When I'm 50, this is going to be cash flowing machine. This is going to be fantastic. And then I am eating beans and rice, reading Dave Ramsey's book, trying to figure out what's wrong. So lots of good lessons, lots of things that I learned. My biggest lesson is that I was so focused on the ants crawling on my trees, right? Like focusing on the house, that I didn't bother to listen to C-SPAN or read market reports or listen to what the bond yield does or how stocks affect the government bonds, or like all the things that you don't have access to now with social media and YouTube and all that stuff that you should have probably paid attention to, because I just didn't know, and you don't know what you don't know. And I wish I had paid attention to the forest burning around me instead of just like appreciating driving by my houses every week and picking up rent checks.
Wow. That is, oh my gosh, that's insane. So you mentioned something about Dave Ramsey. What was your takeaway from reading that Dave Ramsey book, or why did you even pick that up in the first place? And if you could, I don't know if all of our listeners know who Dave Ramsey is, but kind of, real quick, just go over like his philosophy, I guess, about.
Yeah. Dave Ramsey created Financial Peace University, FPU, and it's huge, especially in the military community. A lot of people follow Dave Ramsey. I support Dave Ramsey to a point. I think that everybody should and appreciate what Dave Ramsey has brought to millions of people. Dave Ramsey has very set, particular and very set criteria that he lives his life. Like everything is cash. There's no credit card debt. There's no debt of any kind. You save for your house. And while all that is true, and if you have credit card debt, or if you're just like spiraling out of control, because we were with just the mortgages, we couldn't keep those afloat. So we were like, man, like we're trying to like live on beans and rice, which is a very common saying for him, of like living below your means, and you live below your means for so long, and you set up an emergency fund first, and you pay off all your credit cards, and then basically it's a way for you to erase debt. And I think that for people that are in debt and have tens of thousands or more or less of credit card debt, especially a brand new Marine that wants to go buy a Camaro because he has a credit card and the interest rate is 27%. Like that's the perfect person to go talk to Dave Ramsey. Don't do this. This is bad. I promise you. So it's a way for me and my wife and I to kind of like, all right, like this is our goal. This is what we're trying to do. This is living within our means so that we can continue to move forward, because we knew that real estate was never going to go away. We knew that it was in our life. It was just not an opportunity right now with what we had going on. And so when I part with Dave is where he starts saying that all debt is bad, or debt is bad. And then you get into Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, where they're like, no, there is good debt and there is bad debt. Like I have 4 children. You can ask any one of them, what's the difference between an asset and a liability? And they will tell you that an asset puts money in your pocket and a liability takes money out of their pocket, right? So we have our vision board, and we have the cash flow quadrant on there, ES, B, and I. And these are all things that you learn and understand how money works. And when the more you understand and the more knowledge you gain about how money works, the more empowered you are to take action and to learn how OPM works, which is other people's money, to help maximize your portfolio, or to invest in real estate, or whatever it is that you choose to invest in, and the method in real estate of how you choose to invest in your money.
And there are so many methods when it comes to real estate investing, which is why I'm kind of excited to have you on the episode. I think you're the first person that has done syndications, and I didn't even know you were doing stuff with residential assisted living, which I would love to get into at some point. But Bill, before we move on, did you have any questions regarding any of those those topics that he's already discussed?
No, I mean, I think you're our first guest as well that has gone through, or at least talked to us about going through 2008. So, given that there is a lot of talk right now about that, I think it's really, whether it happens or it doesn't, I think it's a good educational point for people to hear kind of what that experience was like.
Yeah. And that you made it through.
Oh, absolutely. And when we started investing again, my dad was like, why are you going to do that? You lost all your properties first time. I'm like, well, because if I did it once, I can do it again. I'm probably going to do better because I've learned some things. And you gotta get back on the horse when you fall down. I was raised with horses, so I figured that would be a parallel for him, but he didn't pick that up. So we're going to make it happen.
Yeah. Well, you are making it happen, it seems like. So I personally know close to zero about syndications. So I would love to know how you even got started in syndications, what syndications are, kind of give us like the rundown on that part of your real estate investing.
Okay, cool. So I first got introduced to syndications because of the mastermind group that I'm in, which is it's called the War Room, and it's all active duty and veteran military members. And it's the mastermind that has allowed me to grow and meet other active and veteran syndicators. And those are the people that bring, when you drive by a property, an apartment complex or a condo complex, and it's like 2 blocks worth, hundreds of units. For example, Chris and Ashton Laverick with Valkyrie Investment Group, they just purchased a 384 unit in Florida, 384 doors. Now, obviously, one person, unless you hit the lottery or you have an oil company or something, you're not going to have all that money at one hand, right? Like one person's not going to have that. So you have 2 types of partners. You have a GP, which is general partners, and they're the ones that get with the lenders and find their property and do all the demographics and all of the underwriting to say this property is a good deal. They then say, hey, it is we'll just use easy numbers, right? We'll just say 15 million, right? Well, they're going to find limited partners or LPs. They're going to fund that 15 million for whatever, let's just say we'll use standard 80-20. And there's a million, I'm not even trying to get into all the different ways, but we'll just stick standard. They raise the 80%, and then they raise the 20%, and they get a mortgage on the 80%. So just like we would do on a regular single family home. We as limited partners bring the money to the general partners and say, hey, here's our money. You will get it for typically 3, 5, or 7 years. It's typically 5 years. You do a 5-year hold on the property. We'll give you a preferred return, which means that if it makes money, you get the limited partners get paid first, and then the general partners get paid second. And it's usually a 50-50, 60-40, 70-30 split. And that's all worked out in like the webinar that the general partners would present to those people. You get a set return, 6, 7, 8, 6 to 9% usually. There's an equity multiplier. There's a lot of different things that go into that. But basically, as a limited partner, and you're considered a passive investor because you do not have a say or any action like Bill, you guys would have in your flip or your burr, like you're actually doing it. As a passive investor, they used to call it mailbox money. Now they call it ACH money because I just get a monthly or quarterly deposit into my account that I gave them with my routing number. And so at the end of the 5 years, when that property comes to the term, right, whatever they've negotiated that duration of the investment to be, then they pay everybody out, general partners get it, they sell it to somebody else and move on and repeat. So it's a very good way to be a passive investor because I'm not having to worry about a tenant. I'm not worried about a leaky roof. I'm not worried about finding water in my bathroom, right? Like those are all things that I, as a passive investor, don't need to worry about. But what makes passive and being an LP or being in syndications is the relationship that I'm able to build with the general partners. So there's Chris and Ashton Laverack, there's Hutch and Heath. Man, there's so many good syndication people out there that are creating amazing things. Brian Briscoe with 4 Oaks Capital, like there's tons of good people doing amazing things with syndications. Michael and Susie Sevier with Adventurous REI, like it's just incredible that want to bring solid, sustainable homes on a mass scale, because there's not enough single family homes, there's not enough duplexes, there's not enough residential dwellings being made or being built for what we need as a country in whole. So it is a fantastic way for someone to get a small understanding to invest in real estate without the headaches of like, oh my gosh, I got to buy it, and I'm going to get a phone call at 2 a.m. because there's a leaky faucet. It's not how that works. If you like that, which we do, the three of us do, that's an active investor. And if you like syndications and want to be more hands-off, then passive investing is the way to go.
Now, let's say that I am tired of the water damage and the leaky faucets and everything.
Bill would know. Unfortunately, just today he's experiencing that in his flip.
Yeah, first problem, real problem that has happened. So let's say hypothetically I'm all fed up, right? How would I get started in trying to become a passive investor? Like, what is the first actionable step I would have to take to reach out to somebody like some of the folks you mentioned, or how do I, start, do I just give them a check and my routing number and say, pay me every quarter?
If you want to do that, we can talk after this podcast. No, I think that it starts with the relationship. It starts with finding those people, reaching out, networking, and to find those people that do syndications. There are a couple differences in how the SEC, the Security Exchange Commission, looks at syndications. You have 50, and the numbers aren't correct. It's a 506C, 506B. I think it's 506, maybe 503. And all those relate to the tax code, right? One of those allows you to have a relationship with the person, or has to have a relationship with the person. So if I was a syndicator, Bill, and you want to invest with me, you and I would have a conversation. We get to know each other. That way, if the SEC comes back and says, do you know Bill? I, as a general partner, can say, yes, I know Bill. We had conversations. Here's the email we talked about. Here's probably our text. This is his phone number. His kid's birthday's on this date, like that type of stuff. There's also ones that are public and that anybody can go and just invest. And it's like, hey, we're having this over here. Okay, that's cool. And I'll send you my money. But it all starts with that relationship. And how comfortable are you with somebody buying a 384 unit apartment complex, and you've given them, typically it's 50,000, some are 100, for the next 5 years.
Did that answer your question? Yeah, did that answer your question, Bill?
I think so. Yeah. One follow-up question, I guess, that I have is that, okay, $100,000, let's say that I have that. Do you need any evidence for me to be like an accredited investor?
So that's a good question. So there's two types of investors when it comes to being a limited partner. You have sophisticated, which is a yearly amount. If you fall under a threshold, I think it's $1 million, right? If you make less than $1 million collectively with you and your spouse, then you're a sophisticated investor. If you make over that, then you are an accredited investor. And then certain types of those syndications cater more toward accredited investors only, or they can bring so many slots of sophisticated investors in before they close that out. And sometimes it's like, I've seen 35, I've seen 25 slots or positions available for sophisticated investors. And that's all just, again, goes back to the conversations that you have with those syndicated personnel.
Makes sense. I don't have $50,000. All of it's going to plumbing in this house. So,
yes.
Unfortunately.
How,
Travis, how did you find these syndications to invest in? Like, if you have to, quote unquote, like know the people, how did you get to know these people enough to be able to invest in their syndications with being able to abide by those rules? Or, I mean, are you an accredited investor?
I am not an accredited investor. I do not make the threshold. I don't think it's $1 million. I think it's $200,000. Honestly, to transition from a sophisticated to accredited investor, I think it's $200,000 a year collectively. I think that's what it is. I am not. There are stipulations. The SEC has kind of made those rules a lot less stringent in the last, I don't know, maybe 18 months to 2 years. So there are certain ways as a sophisticated investor, you can become accredited if you're becoming a financial planner, you get certain certificates. But for your original question, how I met all these people is all through the mastermind group, 100%, through the war room and meeting these people and Also just talking, like I'm sure, I know that you guys do. Real estate's a part of your life. It's how you communicate. It's one of the ways that you put that energy and you put that out in the universe to be like, hey, I am doing real estate and it's freaking awesome. And I have goals and I have aspirations that real estate's going to allow me to do because I want to have cash flow or build my portfolio or whatever it is your goal is, what's your why, and how real estate is facilitating that.
Yeah.
So get out there and network. Talk, let people know that you're like, hey man, you know what a syndication is? No, you've heard of that? No, but that guy does. Sweet.
I love that. So you said, then based on what you said, it kind of sounds to me like syndication is definitely more passive for the most part. So I feel like from what you've said so far, your syndication deals that you're involved in is like your passive way of investing, but you also mentioned that you do some type of like active investing. Where does the active investing come in, and what kind of labels that active? Like, what are you actively doing in that other real estate investing?
All my active investing is out of state. So with the single family homes I have in Wisconsin and the multifamily I have in Ohio, they are, I got to talk to my property manager. I got to send money. I got to collect rent from the property manager, right? I've got to provide repairs when they move out. I get questions from the property manager about what they want to do about extending lease month to month, right? That's what I mean by active. That's what an active investor does. I am the hands-on, and because it's out of state, I'm relying on a property manager to make sure that they're vetting the right tenants, that they're keeping the right tenants, and the tenant wants to continue to live in that property.
That's awesome. And I have a question, because we just talked to Soli, Lattes and Leases, and she invests out of state as well, but she actually manages from out of state. So I guess one of the questions I have is, we talked to her a lot about building an out of state team and things like that. How did you find your property manager or managers? Like, what was your criteria? How did you find them?
Well, first, she's crushing it. Like, she's doing
Yes.
so many great things. Like, plus, I think she's like a Canva guru. I don't know why that somehow they like symbiotic between Canva and her. I don't get it. It's the strangest thing. But how she's able to do that, I respect that a lot. As an active duty Marine officer, I have no time to facilitate that. There's too many meetings, and the Marine Corps is a very jealous woman and wants to make sure that I'm at those meetings. And the last thing I need to do is make my tenant mad because I'm watching a PowerPoint, wanting to stab my eyeballs. So it is much easier for me to have a property manager. I found them just, again, all through networking. Everything that exists in my portfolio is because of networking, 100%, all of it. There's nothing that I have done on my own. I did not just Google property managers in Cleveland and just start calling people. It was a network. What do you think about this person? How is this person? And then reaching out to people in my network and being like, hey, I'm trying to find a property manager in Cleveland, Ohio. Does anybody have any good questions I could ask them? And then results. Here's a list. Here's what I use. Here's what I say. Sweet, man. Thank you so much. And I think that, as you guys know, that's the beauty of real estate, right? Like, there's anybody who's selfish in this game doesn't last long. They get pushed to the side because you can't be selfish in this space. It doesn't work.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. Hence why we have the like-minded investors community. I feel like there's been so many great connections made. But so I feel like this is all stemming back to a theme of like relationships and networking. Like, that's how basically you got to where you are today. Would you say that's where you were? Would you say that's how you got to where you were in 2008 as well as now, or in 2008, kind of like, how did it differ back then as opposed to like your new journey in real estate investing?
So we weren't doing this. The real estate agents still had they still had the Bible in Latin, and the peasants didn't speak it, right? So it was, you had your agent and he went and found it. And so your agent was pretty much that person. There was no conversations with title. They were just that person that you had to go sign your initials to for the 7,500 pages to close, right? Like there was no relationship base. It was just a cold, it was just a cold experience, because even the agent with Vegas, the way it was when we were investing, I didn't know what off-market deals were. I didn't know what pocket listings were. I didn't know what any of that. I was like, hey, this is a great looking home. Okay, it's listed for that. Okay, cool. I can afford that because, you know, the way the loans were being done. I had good credit. I had a good job. I already had a property. So of course I was like primed to get whatever I wanted. And I did until I couldn't.
Do you think you were over leveraged then in 2008?
I think I was. I think I was over leveraged and I was ignorant in 2008. I think that knowing what I know now, if I could tell myself back when I was 25, 20 years ago, that would have been far better to be like, hey, you should probably look at this or think about what off-market deals are, or, how can I find a burr or a flip or something else instead of just buying. I thought the process worked, coming in, buying phase one and then refinancing at phase 7 and taking the money out. I thought that worked, but it was over leveraged because I had no wiggle room. I had no equity in the property when everything went to 50%. Mm-hmm. And also, even if I did, let's say I didn't refinance those properties, I still would not have the equity or anything in the properties. There is definitely a correlation, at least during Vegas and during the Great Recession, there was a correlation between home price and rental price. And as the price, that whole entire area of Phoenix, Las Vegas, because everything got hit so hard, it was like, oh, hey, here's your rent for 15. Okay, how about 1250? All right, how about $1,000? Now, how about 850? Well, can you do 5? So just to keep the people in the house. And, my wife and I, we laugh now. We would love to have one of the houses, just one, if we could have kept one, because it is now probably 2.5, 3 times than what it was when we had it.
Do you ever go on like Zillow and look at any of those properties or the Zestimates to like punish yourself at all, or no, just turn the page?
No, I try to I don't hit myself in the face with a 2x4 to do that. I don't even want to. Like, it's just, no, I'll just leave that. I'll leave that in the hurt locker over there and just look at the locker and be fine.
So if you could go back to, I don't know, I guess yourself, like right, when you were investing prior to the 2008 recession, would you give yourself different advice from what you've learned now with your set? I feel like it's part 2 of your real estate investing journey.
Yes, I would tell myself to look around, to see what this was doing with the loans, just like to get more educated in how money works, how the Fed is, funding this, or just to get more broad. And so you could see it, because I'm sure there are people that saw it coming, right? Maybe not to the full extent, but there are people. And then the research was there, the information was there, and I just didn't know that I needed to look at it. And that's something that I would have told myself then. And I probably would have diversified. I probably wouldn't have been in sole single families. And that's why round 2 now, I'm not solely in single family.
Yeah.
Because then education and information, technology, social media has provided me an opportunity to like, oh, there are more things I can do. I can do private lending. I can understand, I can lend on the equity piece. I can lend on the debt side. I can invest out of state. I can do all these different things that still satisfies my goal when I retire from the Marine Corps. And that's not to have a W-2 job and to just live solely on cash flow. So it's just what information and the power and knowledge that provides.
So 2 questions come to mind real quick. Do you have any resources off the top of your head that you could recommend to people where they could kind of find out some of that information that you wish you had known back then? If not, we can link some stuff in the notes later.
Probably like watch more market report, more financial TV. That's a scary thing. I don't have I don't have cable or anything. I haven't had cable since we started having kids, so I don't know how skewed that is. But watch sectors, watch uh, manufacturing stuff. Like look at wood was a good example in the last during the recession or during the COVID. Like watching that stuff. Those are the things I had no clue about. Didn't think it was important. Like, hey, there's wood there, cool.
Yeah. And
But
then
I don't have anything specifically that I watch now. I just listen. Listen.
Yeah. And especially talk to your network. And, I feel like that's kind of a great source of information too, is just talking to other people and feeling out their thoughts and stuff on, everything as far as the economy and, rental properties, flips. Like, I feel like, I don't know, that's a great place to start. And then my second,
and it is because like right now, like we're in 3 different states and three different time zones, two different time zones, right? So I can publish or I can post a problem I'm having with a lender, whether local or nationwide, and I can easily have 10 people, a dozen people or more chime in on what, oh yeah, I totally had that problem too, but this is how I fixed it, right? Or I have experienced that, thanks for the knowledge. Like the ability to turn over information is so much faster than it was, 20 years ago. So it allows us to achieve results faster because we're collaborating in like near real time.
Yeah. That's what I love about being on Instagram. I'm not on Instagram right now. I'm taking a break from social media for a little bit, but that's what I do love about social media is you can get an instant response from so many different people from so many different perspectives. Do you use social media in that way? Is that kind of how, I mean, I know you have that mastermind and everything, but do you also use your social media to kind of help with those things?
Yes.
Yeah. So helpful. So my second question that you just brought up to my mind was, you said that one of your goals was to retire and be able to live off of your cash flow. I'm kind of curious as to like, how on track are you for that? When do you retire? Do you have like a very specific cash flow goal, a unit goal? Kind of tell us where you're at with your goals.
Right now, I am a fourth of the way there.
Nice.
And I determined that number by taking my expenses on a yearly basis and then figuring out because right now I live on base, so I have base housing. So it's called BAH, basic allowance for housing. They pay that and then they take it out because I live on base. And I added that in. And so I have my set number of what it is that I need to have net cash flow every month. And at 20 years, you qualify because I'm old, but the new Marines have a different system. But I have a pension. So when at 20 years, I'm eligible for that pension, which is 50% of my base pay. I'm planning on staying in right now for about 22, 23 years. So that's 4 or 5 years from now. And so on the pace that I'm at, I continue to make the cash flow goals that I'm currently getting and continue to acquire. I'll be on track to actually succeed that. Let's say that right? Surpass that, better word. So it was just a matter of seeing what the end in, like what is Steve R. Covey, right? Begin with the end in mind. So I knew what I had to get to, then I just reverse planned that to where I am. And then I don't have it down to, I need to close, so many leads per day or so many calls per day. I don't have that down yet, but I need to make this much money every year till this time to be able to achieve my goal.
What kind of, that brings me, sorry, Bill, I'm like monopolizing questions, but it keeps bringing up like new questions for me. So what are you doing on, I don't know if you're doing it on a daily, weekly, monthly kind of, I know that you just said that you don't have like specifics that you do every single day, like a number of people to call or whatever, but what are you doing? Like what habits do you think that you have that have contributed to your success?
I read the book Miracle Morning by Al Elrod.
Oh, I love it. Yes. We have to link to that 100%. And that is an amazing book. Yeah.
Such a good book.
Yeah.
Traction is another fantastic book.
Yes.
Man, there's so many books that just change your mindset, right? That just help you really connect and turn over rocks that you may not want to turn over and expose things that you need to know about yourself. And so I'm up at every morning at 4:30. I get my lifesavers on, and which you'll read about in the book. So I'm not going to spoil that one for you guys. But I focus on doing that, and I have my intention journal for Bigger Pockets, and I plan my week, and I block my time, and I just try to be very intentional. I have on my phone, I have a little reminder that says patient, mindful, and engaged. Those are 3 things that I wanted to focus on. And whenever I have the time that I'm in front of people, because my position in the Marine Corps right now is I have people come to my office all the time, and it's very hard to be like, hey, you know what, I'd really like to talk to you right now. I'm sure that whatever you have going on is important, but I need to do this. I struggle with that internally between what I have blocked in my time and making sure that I'm there for the Marines. Because the last thing that I want to do is turn a Marine away because I'm trying to fill something on my schedule and something, bad happens, or bad things can happen. And so I'm very intentional because I want to make sure that I'm patient, because I'm not going to get heated or overreact because that person's there to see me, because it's important enough for them to be there to come see me. I should make it important enough for me to be present and mindful and engage with that person that comes sees me. Now, I need to keep those same 3 attributes going when I'm networking, when I'm talking to a lender, talking to an agent, talking with my property manager, talking to, maybe I call on a owner-occupied property through social media, right? Craigslist or Facebook or something. Like, I got to make sure that I'm using those 3 attributes as well. So there's a lot of triggers that I use, but it's all just a matter of repeating those, that schedule, repeating those things over and over again, so that I can deliver the best for myself, but also deliver the best for the Marines, and then those people that I'm going to be moving forward with properties.
Oh, I love it. Yes. Morning routine, I feel like, is so important. I feel like it like just sets up your day for success. When you do those things for yourself in the like when you first wake up, just do those things for yourself. And I don't know, I'm a huge advocate for your morning routine.
Yep.
So I guess maybe we should switch gears now, because I am super interested. I didn't even know that you were doing residential assisted living. Is that a big part of your portfolio? Is it something new? Kind of tell us what that's all about.
Residential assisted living is so new. I am super excited by it. I am like enamored by it. My grandma was in an assisted living home, and I went there and I walk in and I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool. And then I got to talk to the owner, and then I got to talk to the owner some more, and then I got to talk to the owner about the money that they were making, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And so they call it the silver tsunami, and it's coming, and they're projecting, and baby boomers they're no longer 50, they're no longer 60, they're 70, 80 plus, and there's going to be millions upon millions of baby boomers. They're going to need assisted living in all its aspects. I live in Orange County, California. I'm stationed at Camp Pendleton, and there are probably, in the last 4 years, there's 3 big, like 40, 50, 60 unit assisted living buildings that have gone up just in the last, 5 miles, 6 miles. I'll throw out 10. So residential assisted living is, you take a single family home, maybe a duplex, something residential, you convert it to ADA, disability, and also senior compliant, widen the hallways, put in a sprinkler system, no lip showers, take out the carpet, put all the, your LVP down. And then you have a company come and you manage it. And in my aspects of it, I want to be the landlord that builds or rehabs a property so that a company can come in and fill that space with patients and that they can run it. I am not interested in the operational part of it. I am heavily and excited about providing a space that the patients can come in and their kids and grandkids can walk in and be like, wow, nice place. I want my relative to be here. And that this is a place that they are comfortable coming to visit, and this is a place that they're comfortable being able to stay, other than saying, hey, we're just going to drop grandpa off in the nursing home, right? We've all watched something about Mary. We know what happens when their fingers hurt. So.
Oh my God, I haven't seen that movie in so long, but yes.
You know, anybody who get yard duty and have their back hurt. So it's that's something that's interesting to me, because it's a you know, imagine being a landlord, right? And you get your rent check and your mortgage is whatever, and you're getting your $200 to $500 a month in net cash flow. Cool, because that family is living in the property. Well, imagine that same property converted into a brow. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, 1,800 square feet. The national average for assisted living, a bed, considered a bed, is like $4,500, right? That's between private and insurance. Well, if you're putting 2 beds per room based on whatever your state requirement is, and every state is different, and what level of care that you have, right? Between just being able to help them with their meds to combing their hair and trimming their toenails, right? Let's just say you negotiate, let's just say $1,000 a bed. If the average is $4,500, and that covers what all the operators are able to do. And then that company that comes in and runs it, they sign a 10-year triple net lease, which means they cover all the taxes, the repairs, the insurance, they cover everything. And you just provided that, and they do that for 10 years at $1,000 a bed, and you have 4 to 6 beds. Okay. Right. So not only is it has a very fiscal appeal to it, it also knows, like, hey, my grandma was in one of these, and I am very interested in making sure that somebody else's grandma is being taken care of by a reputable company that wants to come in and do it. But also, I, as a grandchild, can walk in and be like, this place is cool. Okay, fine. Instead of like, oh, look, there's roaches. And you're going to have, right, just like there's slumlords in individual houses and in residential and commercial, there's going to be slumlords in that. So it's something I'm digging.
How do you find those? I'm sure it's probably the same way that you find property management companies. I'm sure that there's a whole bunch of those companies out there that do assisted living. How did you, I don't know if you've already started that process of finding somebody to actually like do a triple net lease on, I don't know how many properties you even have yet that you're planning on doing
0.
this with. 0. Okay.
That many, but I'm again, networking. I'm trying to find those people and try to find those individuals and find a property, right? You have, every state is different. So you have certain requirements. Like for Arizona example, your house can only be a certain mile away from another assisted living, but it also can't be within a certain distance of battered women, mental health, Asperger's, any type of, MF, like MS, sorry, any type of like something that you have to be certain miles away from other certain of those types of residences. So you have to make sure that you know your state codes. And again, as an operator, or as a landlord, I want to be like, hey, this is good. Is the zoning correct? Is that stuff good? Okay, roger that. And then go out and find the company, because I have to do my due diligence, because I don't want to find a property like, this is great, and then find out that there's a battered home a half mile away and the requirement is 1.5 miles. Like, oh crap, now what do I do? But that offers a great exit strategy, right? I don't think there's too many families that are going to be like, oh, these hallways are too wide, I'm not going to rent here. You make it nice, they're still going to want to rent it, whether the hallway is an extra 6 inches or not.
Ooh,
So there's even exit strategies. Like, you have exit strategy with it, like, oh, well, it's made really nice. Okay, well, there's no carpet. Cool, that's fine, but it's made really nice. Maybe I can short-term rent it. Maybe I can do traveling nurses. Maybe I can just do a short-term rental. Maybe I'll just rent it out as a buy and hold, or maybe I'll just flip it, no problem. Right, so it's a good exit strategy. in the event that that stuff doesn't work out or you don't get zoning, what have you.
Yeah. Traveling nurses bill. I feel like that's going to become a theme.
Did you see my face light up? That's the second time, and it's also the second time we're bringing her up. But Soli mentioned traveling nurses as well as a potential topic of interest, and you know, as a growing potential renter base, I guess. So it's interesting that you brought that up as well. But I love the idea of multiple exit strategies. I think, you know, that covers your risk. So I think that's great.
Yeah. I'm curious as to, sometimes I feel like as a new investor, it can be difficult to be like, what comes first, like the chicken or the egg. So I'm kind of curious as to how you're going about this residential assisted living. I'm sure it was an idea first, but kind of what are you going after first? Are you going after the deal first? Are you going after the knowledge for, like, are you choosing your market first? Kind of what's your first step with this residential assisted living?
I am choosing education first. And then if I had to choose between the property or the company, I would go with the property. I would find the property, figure out how to get the zoning in place, or at least make sure the zoning's legit, make sure that I am the correct radius for the state that allows me to be like, hey, if I find that house, we're going to move forward. So I would find the property and then find the company and then go from there.
Awesome. Yeah. I love that advice. So I guess before we shift gears once again, I just need to ask Bill, did you have any other questions about this residential living space? I feel like this is such a unique concept that we haven't had anybody on the podcast for yet.
Definitely unique. I don't have any questions, by the way, but definitely unique. And I think it speaks volumes to the lesson of understanding the market and understand like kind of the macroeconomics of our country. I think Travis is right that there is what do you call it? A silver tsunami coming. So I think, you know, that's just, you're keeping a pulse on the market. You know what's coming and you're trying to get ahead of it. I think it's super smart.
Yeah. So, okay. I feel like you are, like a lot of people, you don't have a lot of time to be investing in real estate. And I don't know, I don't have the stomach to do out of state investing. So like, again, third time he brought up Soli, but like she is doing out of state investing too. So are you. I think that's really cool. What would kind of be your best piece of advice for people that want to invest in real estate, but don't have the time? Maybe they have financial resources, but kind of where would you tell somebody to start that just doesn't have the time to quote unquote invest in real estate?
Oh man, if I didn't have the time, but I had the inclination and some money saved up that I didn't want to like leave in the savings account and lose to inflation, I would totally do syndications. I would be a passive investor. If I was a little more savvy with my finances and I wanted to be a little more passive active, right? Let's make that word up.
Love it.
I would look at private lending and understand that and see how I can use my money, you know, because private lenders are getting 10 to 12%, a point or two, which is 1% of the purchase price up front. You know, you can look at getting paid quarterly. You can look at getting paid interest only payments a month, have a 1-year note. You're now the bank. You got our first position on the loan. Like, there's a lot of good things. You know, if you don't, there's no reason why you can't find a way to invest. You can even take, you know, you have REITs, a real estate investment trust. I think that's what a REIT stands for, right? Like, you should be able to put your money in that. And that's just a big pool of money that says, hey, and is it hidden? Is that the right word, or undisclosed? But like, you don't know what the REIT people are buying. They're just giving you a good return on your money. That's another totally easy way if you're familiar with stocks and you don't want to mess with the house. But man, I think being a passive investor through syndications or private lending is such a good way for you to dabble. Alexander, she has a Facebook page. She's fantastic. She's like, I was a landlord once and I hated it. I'm like, yep. Some people just don't want to mess with other people. And now she's, you know, she has like 6,000 members in her Facebook group, and all she does is invest in like New Hampshire, all just locally in our area, just private lending, and it's just crushing it.
So I feel like we're going to get the question, what is the difference between investing in syndications versus being a private money lender? Is that something you'd be able to answer?
Yeah. So private money lending allows you to be the financer of a property. So conventionally, Kier and I, we're the happy, lucky couple. We go get married. We're going to buy a house, and we get whatever, 3.5% on an FHA, or we do Fannie Freddie. We put our 20% down, and we put our 20% down on a $100,000 property, and we finance the other 80,000. Right? Very traditional, very straightforward. With private lending, Kier and Bill, I find the house. They're like, "Hey, Travis, we have like 10 grand and this 100,000. We can put 10% down on this $100,000 house." All right, cool. What I will do is I will finance the $90,000. I am now the first person. I'm first position, right? So that means if you default, I'm the first person that gets paid. So we would go and we would get the attorney, if your state requires that, right? And or a third party, and we would make a promissory note, 30 years, 15 years, 1 year, whatever, and whatever terms that the three of us decide to work out. Typically, when I private lend, it's on a 1-year note. It's a first position lien, and the verbiage says, "Hey, I get interest only payments of whatever interest rate we decide." And that's the beauty of private lending, is we get to have that conversation. It's not some institution telling me what I'm going to accept if I want to take it or leave it. So we decide on the interest rate for the duration of the note, and then gets recorded with title. And then you just start making payments to me with the set interest rate. And then we adjust whether it's amortized over 30 years, it's amortized in 15, it's amortized over 30 due in 5, like whatever it is, however creative we want to be, where both parties accept the terms and move forward. Now, if you default, because it's the property is it's a real property with collateral, right? I get to take that over if you default based on what the contract says, and you just go from there. So private lending is a good way. That's on the equity, or sorry, that's on the debt side, right? Because that's a debt that you owe me. Let's say you say, "Hey, Travis, we have found this great house. We can buy it for 100,000. We know it's worth 150 because we've done our due diligence. Here's all the comps that say it so. We're going to buy it for 100,000. Can you give us a lower percentage rate?" And this is something that I've done. I would give a lower percentage rate, but say, "Hey, we want to flip it in 8 months, and if you provide the 100,000 plus we're buying it for 80 plus the 20,000 we're going to do for the renovations. Give us a lower percentage rate for that 1-year note, no prepayment penalty, meaning you don't get penalized if you pay it off early, and then we'll give you 25% of the $50,000 we make." Cool. Now I have played private lending on the debt side, and I've played private equity or private lending on the equity side. Make sense?
Yes, I love that. It's like it's just a demonstration of how you can be so creative with real estate. You literally can make any deal that you want to, and then write it up with an attorney, and you're good to go. I love that. Mm-hmm.
It really is that easy. And people try to make it so convoluted, and it's whatever the parties are comfortable doing. And the attorney just is going to get his piece because he draws it up, as you should, right? As you should. Contracts and notes and all that stuff keep everybody's Thanksgiving and Christmas happy.
So what do you look for? So you said that you are a private money lender. So what would you look for? Say Bill and I did have a deal that we wanted to partner on with you or something. Like, what would you require from myself and Bill to be able to be like, "Hey, Travis, we want you to invest in this deal"? Kind of what are some requirements that you look for when you do private money lending?
I would look for experience, right? I would look for your ability to how involved are you in this deal? Like, do you have an income? Are you guys trying to grow meth in the back and you're just going to kind of skate from, are you flipping McDonald's, both of you, and you guys met there and all of that? Like, those are things, because if I'm going to invest my time and money into you, then it is only fair that your time and money gets reciprocated back to me. So I get to ask you those questions like, hey, what happens if you get pregnant in 2 months? What happens? Like, oh, I'm already 4 months pregnant. Oh, okay. So what's going to happen with your finances when you are home? Are you going to start doing childcare? Like, those are questions that I would ask because you're dealing with my money, right? And I don't want to give my money to somebody that doesn't have a plan of like, hey, oh, that's a good question. Whenever I deal with people, I've been fortunate to deal with everybody when I private lend, everybody that I do know I've already have a relationship with. But if it was somebody new, it would be your experience. What is your intention? Have you looked at it long term? How long are you going to be in the property? Like, do you plan on doing repairs? Like, just like, what is your goal? Like, tell me, how are you going to use this property to your benefit, or are you just trying to find an easy way so that you can skip out on payments, right? And it's relationship based. Like, do I feel comfy with you? Do they creep me out? Does Bill like pick his nose every time he looks at me? Like, those are all different things.
Have I picked my nose at all?
I don't know. We'll have to go to the YouTube channel. We'll have to go to YouTube and check it out. We'll see if Bill picked his nose during this episode.
Yeah. Here's one note. I would look at your car. I would see what you drive. What does the inside look like? Do you wash it? Do you take care of it? Does it look like crap? Do you have stuff like shoved in the dash? Because that tells me that if you're going to treat your car like that, the likelihood of my property looking the same or the property looking the same, probably pretty close. And if you default now, and I'm not only are we talking about legal fees, or we're talking about other fun stuff, if it does default, like, now I got to go and get it all ready. So there's just a lot of different things in it. It's very relationship based. It's just kind of how you fill out people.
It's almost like that. What is it called? The like, know, and trust factor. I feel like that's a big thing. And that's why I feel like on this podcast, we always tell everybody, and I feel like all the guests that come on, they're all like, talk to everybody you know, tell everybody you know what you're doing, and make sure that they understand what you're doing, and that, you know, you're a good person and you're doing it for good reasons, and, you know, you pay your investors back. And yeah, I think the like, know, and trust factor is super important. It sounds like you kind of reiterated that with that answer.
You know, with Marine Corps recruiters, they talk about it's called PSS, professional selling skills, sales skills, and it's they say believe, like, trust, and feel, felt, found are the three ways that you bring people in, right? They believe you, they like you, then they trust you, and then when you're having conversations, someone's like, yeah, I did this. Like, oh, I feel what you're going through, and I have felt this, and so I found that. And so you use these words that are like, oh, that's a nice blanket I'm gonna wrap up in. Yeah, where do you want me to sign? So it's a thing. It's real. It's you know, the energy of a person. You know, you meet them the first time, and you're just like, dude, no, I'm sorry. You know, you Zoom with them, you talk to them on their phone, you talk to them on the phone. It's all of that stuff. It's all wrapped in.
Mm-hmm. And that's why people need to spend time networking, even if
Yes.
it is through Zoom.
Yes, 100%.
So I know that you lost everything in 2008. Did you have like a moment where, like, I feel like, I don't know, I'm sure not everybody would have given up, but I'm sure a lot of people would have given up after they lost everything in 2008. So was there a moment that you can think of in time where it was kind of like, this is why I invest in real estate. This is why I do it. This is why I'm going to try it again. Like, is there a reason that you keep going specifically with real estate?
Let's see. Yeah, I would say each one of my deployments, I deployed twice to Iraq and twice to Afghanistan. And each one of my deployments, you know, I write a letter to each kid. I think each kid was a deployment, or I should say each deployment was a kid. However you want to work that out. They were all like 3 and 4 months old when I got back from the deployment. So, you know, you do the whole write a letter to them, write a letter to your wife, that type of thing. And there's been many times on many a night when you just have yourself and your thoughts. And you just realize, like, hey, like, I could get blown up tomorrow. I could get shot. Like all these things that run through is like, what am I leaving as a legacy for my family? Like, what is that I'm going to be able to provide greater than myself? And that's kind of, that kind of started driving me like, hey man, I need to get back into real estate. That's where the opportunities that exist, because Social Security is not going to be around. I'm not going to be able to work my entire life. And I don't want to be my dad was another indicator. He was 67 when he died, and he was in concrete for 40 years, and he worked every day of his life. And I realized, like, dude, there's way more value and excitement in life out there. I realized as I retired from the Marine Corps, and one of my goals with my wife is to go do like church missionary work, and to go do 18 months in this part of the world, and go do 18 months at maybe up at Tahoe for a year. Go bring joy, go bring happiness through my volunteer efforts of like providing something better. And I just find myself wanting to provide things better, leaving things, the Marine Corps mantra, like leave things better when you found them. And if I can go somewhere and like clean up a school, or paint a fence, or paint a wall, we can paint a fence very well, but paint a wall or build something, or, and it's not even like a proselyting mission, or, I don't have to go there and just grab on my soapbox, but just provide that service, man, like that's a fulfilling life. And if I can do that without having to touch my pension and my disability that I hope to get, and like everything else, and I can do that through real estate, and it provides that means, man, like that is power. That's awesome. That's leaving, at the end of your day, you can see your work and be like, yeah, that's good. And then you can go and just repeat that over and over. And like, who doesn't want to have, for me, that's a fulfilling life. And regardless of what method that fulfillment happens, man, we should all be striving to get a fulfilled life like that.
That is one hell of a why. And a mic drop moment.
I know, right? I'm like, what's the mic drop moment in this episode? It was that.
Thanks.
Oh my gosh. Travis, you have been an absolute amazing guest. I feel like you covered so much in this episode, and it's definitely stuff that we've never touched on before. So I'm really excited for people to listen to this episode. My last question, so for people that don't know, we have our podcast guests fill out a little questionnaire beforehand. And one of the hobbies that you put, you have a lot of hobbies, it seems like, which I'm surprised by. Jiu-jitsu, surfing, woodworking, playing the ukulele. I'm like, what? But what is team roping?
Oh, yeah. All right. So that's how actually I had a college scholarship to team rope. What team have you guys been to a rodeo before? Like never?
Never.
Oh, no.
All right.
East Coast. I don't think we have that.
Okay. All right. Let me shed a tear for a second. So team roping, and like, the rodeo is though, right? Like it's all events with cowboys and animals.
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, at least we got foundation established. We'll go from there. So team roping is you have a header and you have a heeler, and you have a steer in the middle. Well, the header and the heater back into the box, and the header nods for the steer, and I'm a header, so the steer, I nod for the steer exits the chute. He's given a certain distance to like get away, and then I and my partner, we run up to the steer. I rope the steer around the horns. I dally on my saddle horn, and I turn left. Now my heeler, my partner, comes in, and when a steer runs, his back legs hop up and down like a rabbit. So the heeler comes in, he gets in time with his steps, and he throws his heel loop, and then he goes to the horn and dallies. I turn around and face, and then the flagger who's timing us, his time starts when the chute opens, he drops the flag, and that's the time. So fastest time wins. Usually it's 2 to 3 go rounds. And if you are the fastest in the go round, you get money. And if you win the average, you win money. And like, that's what I grew up doing.
Oh my gosh. I have never, ever heard of that.
Me neither, but it's super interesting. I mean,
it's one of the really, like, surfing's amazing, right? Like, you get on the wave, and the wave is making you happen, and you're going fast, and you're dropping in and all that stuff. Being on an animal, when you're sitting on the animal in your saddle, and you're going from 0 to 35 miles an hour in about, I don't know, 3 to 6 seconds. And having like, you're roping another animal, and then your horse is moving and the steer is doing the thing. Like it's a truly amazing feeling to have one, to feel all that power in the quarter horse is the breed that we ride. And to have them just reach out there and the wind's in your face and you're roping, and it's pretty cool. It is definitely a 5 senses extravaganza.
You need to record yourself doing this, or have someone record you doing this, because I need to see this.
Same.
Fair enough. I'll pull out some old stuff.
Yeah, we would love that. We would love for you to send that over. So Travis, I guess we're going to wrap up the episode here now. If you just want to tell people where they can find you, I don't know if you have like a website, or if you're just an Instagram person, kind of let us know where people can reach out to you and chat if they want.
Yep, I'm on Instagram at Travis Hill 1310. That's at Travis Hill 1310.
Awesome.
Awesome.
All right, Travis. Well, this was amazing. Thank you so much for being on tonight. And I think maybe we should leak a little bit more into this next episode. You did say that you invest in Ohio, and we didn't dive into that on purpose because we're going to have you and what should I call him? Your partner, or
first I would call him my friend.
Friend, yes. Friend and partner?
Yeah, I guess we could. That's becoming a thing. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, we're gonna have Travis and Steve on. Steve was on last week's episode. So we're gonna have like a dual episode with Travis and Steve, and kind of how they got together and what they're doing in Ohio. So we'll dive into that on the next episode. So we're excited for you guys to all listen to that.
Dope. Can't wait.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Travis, so much. Have a great night.
Thanks, guys. You too.
All right. Bye-bye.